Happy Wednesday, everyone, and happy holiday season. We've made it. It's the holidays. We've now gotten to the busiest part of the year. My name is Billy Stein. I manage sales and partnerships at MoeGo, and I'm going to be moderating today's webinar. If this is your first time learning about MoeGo, welcome. We're very excited to have you here. Our mission is to be the operating system for the pet services industry. And we have a theme and a panel tonight that is meant for our primetime kickoff. Today's topic is the Holiday Survival Guide for Boarding and Daycare Businesses. And we're going to be discussing how your facility can prepare for the inevitable rush and subsequent mayhem of the holiday season. Today, we'll get you some industry expertise on how to handle everything from staffing to pricing strategy to even game planning if your clients end up experiencing travel delays. Now, before we jump in, this webinar is being recorded and we'll post it on our YouTube channel after the fact. You can find it at MoeGo. So if you have to leave early or you'd like to revisit it or share it with your team, you'll be able to find it there. Now, if you have any questions, please don't wait until the end. Pop them in the chat. You can talk about more than just the weather there if you'd like. Ivy from our team will be monitoring it and we'll be able to get to it either live while we're in the thick of the discussion, or we'll make sure that we address everything at the end so nobody misses anything. Now, I'm so excited to introduce our panelists tonight. We've got Eve Molzhan, the founder and CEO of Dog Handler Academy. She's also the founder and CEO of Pawesome Pets Country Club out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, a MoeGo user. Great to have you on with us tonight, Eve.
Thank
We
you.
also have Carmen Rustenbeck, the founder and CEO of the International Boarding and Pet Services Association, or IBPSA for short. Among her many other ventures, she's also part of the advisory board for the Pet Buzz. Thank you both for being here. Today's webinar, if you've ever joined one of our webinars before, is going to follow a little bit of a different format. Tonight, I'm going to be asking some questions, which you're going to see displayed on the screen while we're talking. And Eve and Carmen are going to be able to discuss their strategies and draw on real experience from their real facilities to try to help you be as effective as you can during the holiday season. Eve, Carmen, y'all ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, we're going to start holistically, how to think about your holiday strategy. And Eleanor Roosevelt famously said, "It takes us much more energy to wish than it does to plan." Carmen, I'd love to start with you first. When should facilities start to strategize for the holiday busy season?
They should have already been doing that back in October. There's still time, but really, I think that as soon as you finish that summer season, you need to be thinking about the holidays and how you're going to manage that with staffing, revenue, occupancy, and any things you need to tweak along the way.
Eve, any thoughts to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a staff meeting in August with my senior management staff and my virtual staff and my marketing team, and we really go over what did we do last year. So, having been in the business and for several years, you can look at your historical data, um, and the things that you're looking at is A, how many dogs did you have, or cats or ferrets or whatever it is you're boarding. Um, what were your primary drop off times and pickup times? Looking at that historical data and then comparing it to what you have coming up definitely plays into things when you're looking at your staffing, is the big one, and making sure that you have enough staff to handle the load. And if you don't have enough staff to handle the load, how can you adjust your occupancy? Do you need to go in and block off some of your suites so that way you're not filling them because of your staffing level? And then our advertising for the holidays, we start that in August. So August and September, we do a couple promos of don't forget about holiday boarding. October is our final. The end of October, it's our final. Hey, if you haven't, you better do it today because we're going to be full. And right now, what we're promoting is all of our add-ons going into the holidays. So anybody who already has a boarding reservation with us, now they're seeing all of our add-on ads to help boost our revenue.
What's your top add-on you're planning on promoting this holiday?
So we serve a Thanksgiving dinner, and it is a plate with sweet potatoes and some turkey with no seasoning on it, green beans, some ready whip, and a blueberry.
They're going to be eating great over there.
Yeah, we serve those at $22 a plate. And Last year, we sold 28 at the one location. So we're anticipating 35. And then at the second location, I think we did 20. So this year we're planning about 28.
Amazing. And you mentioned the ferret. That's a very specific example. We could probably talk about that during the Q&A section because I think I have some questions. But Eve, something that you mentioned when we were having our planning meeting for this webinar, you brought up a really good point that maybe I wasn't thinking about, but you said so much of the success of the business relies on how you prepare the front desk. How are you setting up your front office staff to maximize revenue at Pawesome Pet Country Club?
So we do scripting, and not only scripting, but also role playing. Uh, 2 weeks ago, we started our role playing where I we all sat together and ate some pizza, and I pretended to be a client calling in. Hi, yeah, my cousin bailed on me for boarding. What do you got? What do you have to offer? So, although we're a backup plan for somebody, how can we sell them that we should be their first choice going forward? How to talk about the add-ons. So, when we're booking the client and we're like, "Oh, this is 10-year-old Sam. We know he's got arthritis." So, we might say, "Hey, you know what? Do you want to add a warm blanket for him at night?" So, really coaching them through how to look at the dog or cat or pet that's coming in and what services or things do we offer that would really help that pet have a more enjoyable experience.
That's awesome. Carmen, any thoughts?
Well, I think it's really important that Eve, what is Eve has said about role playing and talking about how we're going to do those add-ons. Because during that same discussion that we were having, if you remember, I said the worst thing that happens when I go to book Java into boarding is that front desk staff never offers me any add-ons. So I have to actually ask for the add-on. And it just happens to be a facility that I have a long history with. And so I keep calling the owners and saying, I booked Java, but the add-ons weren't asked. And so I think that's a real challenge that when you're working with your front desk people, especially during the holidays, that they know all the add-ons that are available and maybe special pricing for those so that you don't lose out on that extra money and maybe make a little contest out of it. You know, who could get the most add-ons over the holiday season and
Oh,
make it fun for
100%. And
everybody.
Carmen brings up a great point. If you can create bundles, so, do the senior citizen, and again, I'm just throwing out words here, you can senior citizen package,
Mhm.
the young pup package, or you could say, do you want the premier package or the elite package? And that incorporates two or three of your add-ons. So you could give one each day if they're staying for multiple days, which hopefully they are. But packaging those up too is also a great way for someone to make sure that they're getting everything they want for their dog. So when they come in, you're like, "Oh, I see Fluffy's booked in the efficiency suite. Did you want to add on the premier or the efficiency?" Like just go ahead and throw it out there, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, my dog's a premier dog. Of course I want that."
You're right.
Um,
They all are.
Right. I think it's really important that your front desk people also understand your clients and recognize long-term clients because then it's easier to do that upsell because you know that client's taste. And hopefully in your software you're able to put these little notes for your people to see when they bring that client's dog up. They'll have little notes there to talk about things that have happened in the past.
And what a perfect time to remind everybody the pet notes in MoeGo is a great spot to put all of those so that after I heard plan early, I heard practice, take advantage of your pet notes. It can take you a very, very long way. Um,
100%.
and with that, let's actually talk about so now we've planned. Now let's actually prepare for actual occupation. So marketing is the fuel for the engine. You hate to pay for it, but if you ignore it, you're stranded. Eve, what are the best ways to market your facility and your services during the holidays?
So if you're a new facility, you need to reach out to all of the existing facilities in your area. That's an easy one, right? So that way when they're full, they can refer people to you. They can feel comfortable referring people to you because you've called and had a conversation. You've given them your elevator speech. And that's a really easy way if you're a newer facility. And even if you're an OG in the industry, talking to your competitors, hey, how are things looking? Hey, I'm full. Can I refer people to you? What do you got going on? That's super important. The secondary piece that we really look at is talking to our groomers. Your dog groomers, they have great relationships with their clients because they see them on a regular basis. So having a good relationship with all the groomers in town so they can refer people. And the power of social media. That's really it. We do a ton of really targeted ads on Facebook and really make sure that our SEO is optimized to the best of its ability.
Carmen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you go back into your history again, just like Eve says, we are looking at the history of who has come, that you reach out to your long-term customers and you find out if they're going on vacation and you offer them a first come first serve basis, like we really want to make sure that you're taken care of before we get booked. So you're reaching out strategically to those individuals that you have a long-term relationship with, and I think that builds trust. And even if they say this year, you know what, we're not going to go on vacation, we're staying home, that's still an opportunity for you to say, well, are you having family come in? Why don't you bring your pet in for that day, and let's just get them out of the way of the family and make it easier. And then talk about the health of the pet. By bringing them into the facility, it keeps them away from family that doesn't know you shouldn't slip that dog, whatever that special treat was that just came off that Thanksgiving dinner plate or that Christmas plate. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for a facility to reach out to long-term customers and really make the holidays special for their customers
Couldn't
and
agree
build that
more.
relationship more.
And a couple of things that Carmen, you're talking about, your client notes in MoeGo can go a very long way to knowing who's traveling, who's going to be in town. You can include different pet tags if you'd like to create them for things like if they eat that food item that slips off your plate. All those things will just make it very easy for you and for your staff to go out and have a great holiday season. Eve, what are some other factors to consider when your occupancy is full, if you've gotten it there, or if it's even better and you're overflowing? What are some of the most critical things that you can take care of?
Yeah, truly, Carmen kind of hit on it, right? Like whether somebody maybe got slipped a little something, something before the dog showed up at your facility, or they change their food right before they come. But who are your vets that are going to be open on the holidays? Know all of your local vets, who offers after hours care, who offers emergency care. Make sure that when people are coming in to drop off their dog for boarding and you've printed out that kennel sheet out of your software system, that the emergency contact isn't the owner of the pet, that there actually is an emergency contact. So many times people are like, it'll just be me. People can just call me. Well, if you're on a cruise or you had a little too much bubbly during the holidays and you're not going to answer the phone, like we need to be able to get a hold of somebody. So that's super, super important to just double check that stuff when you print out those kennel sheets for the dogs coming in, to make sure that you're on par with all those things. Another great thing in your software, ask about allergies. Never fails. You're going to have some husky or something that's going to spill all of his food everywhere. And then as you're walking Fluffy by and they, grab a couple nuggets of that food, just know if there's any allergies that the dogs might have. It never fails how many times people walk in and go, "Yeah, I'm just dropping this dog off for my neighbor or my cousin or whatever," and they can't answer the questions that you want to kind of run through just to double check. So by having all those notes in there and making sure that clients have filled that out properly, is really super important. It's just going to make everything so much easier. Another thing that we always do is I always hold one crate back. So I always have one or two backup crates, because it never fails. Someone's going to walk in the door and you don't have that reservation because they thought their spouse made it, or, oh my gosh, I swear I called and talked to somebody. It happens every holiday. So I always hold two emergency crates back, just in case. And they always get filled.
Smart.
Billy, also, I think that they need to be very aware of whether these pets have medication that they need to be brought in with. I don't know how many times I have seen in the facility that I work at that they forget to bring the meds. And if it wasn't for the notes section, we wouldn't know that those pets were on meds. So, and we've done it with our Java. We've taken them in, we took the food and we left the meds, had to turn around and go all the way back home, get the meds before we left on our vacation. So I think it's really important that they ask those questions.
Yeah, and note them too. Feeding
Yes.
instructions,
100%.
Mhm.
everything you want to know, medication administration, how much of what and when. That goes a very, very long way, especially if it can be prevented by the dog eating maybe something it shouldn't be eating.
Right.
Huge.
Awesome. So we've talked about planning, we've talked about occupational guidelines, but let's talk about pricing. And holidays are a real time of scarcity, and scarcity comes with a price. Carmen, is there a helpful framework for profitability you consider for pricing on the holidays?
When I talk to people about their pricing, I make sure that they understand their pricing via service and that they are making a profit on the pricing as it is. When it comes to whether we're going to we're going to use dynamic pricing, I think again, it's really important that they run those numbers to make sure that in their dynamic pricing, that it is the best for their facility. We don't care what the facility down the road is doing. What are you doing in your facility? And there's so many ways to do those pricing modules. There's so many different ways to price that it really becomes a challenge, I think, as I move from facility to facility about how they think about pricing and how they think about the services they're offering. And so I lean on their historical data, what they've done in the past, what worked for them, and what lessons did they learn and how they need to tweak that. But I know that Eve has a very specific way that she looks at dynamic pricing. So, Eve, when you look at dynamic pricing, what are you doing in your facility?
Yeah, so like you said, Carmen, there's so many different ways to do it.
Mhm.
Like some facilities require for a holiday they have to be there for a 2-day stay or a 3-day stay, right? Whatever covers the holiday piece to it. Um, I add in a fee if someone is dropping off late. I had one of my staffers makes $100 every holiday because people we close at 8 and they'll sit there for half an hour and sure enough that phone's ringing. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. It's $20 cash and so there's that kind of pricing. But truly, like, really think about how are you going to serve your people and make sure that you're serving your staff. So that's where that really kind of goes hand in hand. But yeah, and I also for the holidays we only allow local people to book. So if you're from 4 hours away, you're not booking your stay with me. We really take care of our local people, which kind of goes into something Carmen said earlier about taking care of your clients.
Mhm.
But and whether you want to charge like a hotel where they check in, they check out, whether they pay for 24 hours worth of a stay, those are all decisions that each facility has to make. But definitely look at what works for you and how your facility flows and your staffing. Right now, I think with staffing challenges that most facilities face, having a 3-day stay and you're only open for 2 blocks for drop off and pickups, those work out pretty nice.
Eve, you kind of stole one of my questions here. So I'm going to try to rework this because I think this is important. I think a big piece of what we talk about with MoeGo and users a lot is we have great pricing rules that we offer. So you can set a surge price if you want. You can
Yep.
set a custom fee of any kind that you may want to charge. You hit on late fees and uh, late pickup, late drop off. In your point of view, do you think that there's a reasonable balance to be drawn between surcharging and discounting? I.e., if I'm a local in your area and I have multiple dogs that are staying, do you incorporate that? Or is it just something that during the holiday season we should be thinking about how to increase pricing as much as we can?
I think in the holidays, um, I think you just really need to focus on revenue and not on discount. I am one of those people that is a huge proponent for no to minimal discount
I
when it comes
agree.
to multiple dog. When people say, "Oh,
I
well,
agree.
the other facility gives me half off," I said, "Great. Which dog do you want me to give half services to? I'll only let them out half the time, and I'll only feed them half the food." And they look at me, and I go, "More dogs equals more staff. We staff per dog, not per suite. So if I have 5 dogs in one suite, I have to staff for 5 dogs. I don't staff for the suite." So when I explain that to people, they go, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah." So yeah, so no, I'm a proponent of not discounting, especially for the holidays. Again, your staff is giving up a holiday, so
Hmm.
don't devalue their worth, is the secondary way to put it. But yeah, no, absolutely working those rules, making sure that you have in our little, additional services, the after hours fee, we call it, so that way we can charge them accordingly. But most definitely, and when you're thinking of, it's a great promotional tool as well, to flip it and just be like, "Hey, we're open from these times. Plenty of opportunity for you." So even utilizing your set hours as a promotional piece plays a factor.
Yeah, I agree with you both. And, I know that we're in a fairly difficult economy, and I know it can be very tempting to offer a promotional discount. But at the end of the day, when we talk to our MoeGo end users, pet parents don't necessarily go for the CVS brand. They prefer to pay a little extra to have the premium brand. So what I've learned from this is when in doubt, resist the temptation to discount and make sure you're taking care of your prices, your facility, and your people. And on that note, let's talk about people a little bit. So we have a bunch of questions here, but what it comes down to for me is your product can be copied, your people can't. They're the only true source of sustainable competitive advantage you have. And in the case of holiday staffing, that's a confluence of full-timers and part-timers. You both have different points of view, and I want to hear both of them. But Carmen, I'm going to start with you. What are some of the trusted candidate profiles you may look to hire during the holidays?
So I live in a college town, and when we look at people who've worked for us before that may be coming back home or will have some extra time off during the holidays, and we refer back to them, we actually call them and say, "Are you going to be in town?" Because we know them, they have experience with us, we know their skill set. So that's an easy fix for me if I need temporary hire. As it comes to my full staff that's there full time, we really try to work with them and make sure that we're not overburdening any one staff member during that holiday season where they need to work. But if we have to hire a temporary staff that we've never had before, we really look to see how we can put that temporary staff in a job that's maybe something we can teach easily, pick up poop, clean a enclosure, something that's easy for them to do that is not really putting them in too much contact with the dogs or in areas that would create a problem. So for us, it's easy to go back to staff that have worked for us before because they do have that time off during the holidays.
And how about you, Eve?
So, also in a college town. But I do a little bit of what Carmen does as well. I call some of my previous summer staffers that are home for the holidays. But I also, uh, we will hire on and we will place ads saying, looking for a little extra Christmas cash. Don't want to deal with retail. How about deal with dogs? So yeah, we use those people to haul up the bins, help with the inventory, clean enclosures in between dogs, just like a hotel, right? And housekeeping, so swapping them out, making sure we're staying up on laundry. We teach them proper etiquette to grab the dogs and bring them up. But we really look for those single parents who are like, okay, I've got every other weekend off, or I can work a few hours at night, but I don't want to work all night long. So we get them in now to train them up. So even if they can work during our rush hour daycare time of dogs going home or dogs coming in the morning, that way we can give them 2 or 3 hours to understand our concept, and then that really helps with the holidays. But yeah, single parents, I find fitness people, right? They're really busy in the morning and they're busy at the end of the day, but nobody goes and works out on a holiday, so they're readily available, and they're used to lifting heavy things, so that works out well. And then I also have some really good dog training clients. So I teach reactive dog class, so those people are very dog savvy. And so a lot of times they'll actually just say, "Hey, I'm not doing anything for Thanksgiving. Need a hand?" Sure. So yeah, that works out well. But I try to anybody that I'm hiring for the holidays, get them to work with me for at least 30 days leading up to the holiday, just so I can feel confident that they have some skill set.
You have me thinking now, imagining Arnold Schwarzenegger lifting kennels in your facility. One of the things that we talked about was safety, not just safety for the pets, but also for the staff. So, what measures do you take to ensure safety and profitability with your staffing?
Yeah, I think one of the key things, and when I tour other facilities or talk to other facilities, my biggest thing is anytime dogs are out of their enclosure, there have to be a minimum of 2 people on site.
Mhm.
Um, Even if you're like, oh, it's just this person moving dogs out to potty individually, doesn't matter. You get a dog that decides to corner your staffer, what are they going to do? How are they going to handle it? So, anytime dogs are out of their enclosure in any way, shape, or form, even for grooming or bathing, must have 2 people on site. That is mandatory for me from a safety perspective. The second thing that we really focus on is I buy big puffy coats and gloves and hats and muck boots in multiple sizes. So we have large, extra large, three large. So, the bigger, the warmer it is underneath everything. But, that's the other thing too, is just making sure that everybody is warm enough and has the proper gear for the environment and dress in lots of layers.
Carmen, any other thoughts on safety and profitability?
No, I agree with um, if you live in cold weather area with Eve, if you live in cold weather area, you would need all those things. So I'm down here in the desert. So if we get snow on the ground, it snows in the morning, it's gone by the afternoon. But I do agree that when you have, this is a really hot topic for us here at IBPSA, that if you have dogs out of enclosures, that you must have 2 people in the facility just for safety reasons. And this is again where you want to make sure that if you're hiring temporary staff, that you have an experienced person to be there and you just don't have 2 temporary staffs doing this. Otherwise, it could go wrong really quickly. So we always try to make sure that our newbies are with somebody who's well experienced in our facility.
Yeah. Billy, you talked about, safety and profitability. And the reality is the more that you focus on safety, truly the more profitable you will
Yeah.
be. Um, when I did a survey a few years ago on why people utilize my facility, safety was number two. Number two. So the safer that you talk about your facility and the safety measures that you put in place, the more profitable you will be, because that is what people are looking for when they want pet care.
And, you know, I'm going to stay on safety, but we're going to go a step deeper here because even though we're talking about maybe college kids who we all may look enviously at and say they're having the time of their lives without a care in the world, the reality is the holidays are stressful for everyone. And when we think about safety, we also have to consider everybody's mental health.
Hmm.
So, how do you effectively set up staffers to avoid conflicts so you don't have walkouts on Christmas Eve?
Fun, fun, and more fun.
Tell me
Have
more.
right? So and again, this goes back to your front desk person, right? Your front desk person should not be, "Hi, how can I help you today?"
Right,
Right? They
right,
should be like, "Hey, good to see you. How are things going?" Right? Like you need that cheerleader
right.
person on every shift.
Yep.
Number one. Number two, are there any sort of goofy games that you can play while they're there? So I actually bought on Amazon. I'm going to show you my lovely box about dogs. So these are trivia questions about dogs. And then I have a basket that has full-size candy bars in there and fuzzy socks and weird stuff that you buy at Five Below or whatever. And so randomly, I will just be like, hey, everybody, it's trivia time. And I'll read out a question, and the first person to answer it back, winner, winner, chicken dinner, go get something out of the bin, and they get to go pick a prize. So you have got to make it fun. And not that buying pizza isn't fun, but again, these people are giving up time.
Mhm.
Um, so you need to make it enjoyable for them to be there. So by making sure that they know they're in a safe place, right? They know that you're looking out for their safety and those things. They don't have to stress about the types of dogs that maybe you're taking in, right? Because you've got them trained, they can feel comfortable, and then making it fun and enjoyable for them to be there. For some of our staff, coming into work is their release. Like that is their safe place to be. And I say that wholeheartedly as I actually have a staffer who is sleeping at my facility because she doesn't have a place right now. So, work for, I think, a lot of these people, the reasons they come to work for us in the dog daycare world is it's unconditional love. And so, making sure that when they walk in the door, they know that they're in that safe space and it's a fun space and that, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, I think that just being very appreciative with your staff, and don't just say it once, but say it over and over and over again. You cannot thank your staff enough for giving up a holiday to work. And small acts of kindness, surprising them with little things throughout their shifts. Also, I think that it's important that sometimes, even though they're at the job, a call will come in that may be stressing for them, that there's a place in the facility, if you have a place of any kind, where a staffer can go and just rest for 5 to 15 minutes and just get out of the noise and just sit for a minute and not have pressure on them. So a little place to go and just breathe, whatever that is. I think it's important that we do everything we can do to make sure that our staff is healthy mentally, even if that means that I'm talking to them, I'm calling on the phone, and I'm like, hey, Eve,
Yep.
I'm checking in with you. How are you doing today? Is everything going okay? Is there anything I can do to always be of service to your staff who was working to keep the doors open so your business can continue is very important.
100%. And acknowledge the hustle.
Yep.
On Christmas morning, I'll tell you right now, or in Thanksgiving morning, I'll be there with my staff and we're gonna be running around and I'll be like, you got it, girl, you got it, and just acknowledging their hustle and the fact that they're there and they're doing well. So
Yeah, gratitude is free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
I love that. I've experienced Wisconsin in the wintertime before. I think it would be fun to sit down with hand warmers and dog trivia
all the
at your
stuff,
facility, Eve.
all the stuff.
All right, so we've talked about it now. Let's just go one more level deeper, if we can. We talked about what we can do to help everybody manage stress as best they can while they're at the facility, but is there anything additionally you can do to make sure that everybody's in a good place mentally before they enter your facility during the holidays?
Yeah, we do some role playing. So usually the second week of December, we do a staff meeting and I try and add in a little bit of personal uh, training into it. So the last 2 years, we've had someone come in and do a sound bowl cleansing. We had someone come in and do massage and red laser therapy. We had a little pop-up salt tent. So we try and do something at our at our December staff meeting, just to put people in that nice Zen place, so to speak. And then, you know what? We do scripting of how do you get yourself out of uncomfortable family situations. And I literally practice them with the staff. We'll have somebody play, oh, inappropriate Uncle Joe's coming, Sly Sally with her little digs of, how you don't measure up. So we do some fun little acting and role playing on what they might encounter at family gatherings, and so that way, I always tell them they can always use work as an excuse. So if home life is uncomfortable, say, you know what? I just checked my phone. I have a message from the boss. Somebody called out and I need to go in and fill in. I tell them all the time, I will 100% be your backup plan.
Love that.
I don't
Love
have anything to add. Eve has got it covered. She's got it going over there. I just want that dog trivia game. That's what I
Yeah.
want. I got to get me that.
You know what? It was one of those I'm going to order it and just see, and the staff are loving it, loving
Wow.
it. So
We may need to add that in the follow-up notes because I bet if you
Yes.
look up dog trivia on Amazon, there's probably a million options nowadays.
yes, it's called About Dogs, if that helps out.
That's
Simple
great.
enough. Awesome. So we've talked about planning, we've talked about occupation, we've talked about pricing, we talked about staffing. Got one more key area to cover. It's arguably our most important one, which
Mm,
is our pet parents. And, when we talked about it, we talked a lot about peace of mind. Somebody might be on a cruise, they might be with inappropriate Uncle Joe somewhere abroad or Sly Sally. So very important that we deliver peace of mind to our clients. What needs to be communicated to pet parents during the holiday booking?
well, Carmen, you board your pet, so give us what you
Yeah,
got.
kick it
Yeah,
off.
so it's really important when we go to board Java that we understand opening and closing times, and especially if we're flying, we also make sure. Now, I'm going to sort of jump around on the slide here, so I apologize for a minute, but because a Java is 13, not only do we have to make sure that he has meds and that and the meds for our facility have to be in original bottles provided by the veterinarian. So we make sure all of his meds that he's got enough plus to get through just in case we get stuck in an airport. We don't make it back on the day. We always make sure that Java has extra food, and we always make sure that Java has is bathed and toenails clipped before he comes home. But also, it's really important that the facility, in my mind, make sure that your emergency contact is actually going to be in town. So
Yeah.
sometimes we just think, oh, we have an emergency contact for them, but we don't actually ask the question. This is your emergency contact. Are they going to be in town or are they going on vacation also? Because that's the last thing you need where you don't have an emergency contact. So that to review all the items that you would normally not have to review, but when they're going to be out of town, you go through every piece. Is this still your emergency contact? Is this still how we contact them? In my particular facility where I board Java, they also take a credit card and keep it on file in case an emergency happens and they have to
Yeah.
take him to a vet. And then you have to tell them what the dollar amount limit is on that credit card if they do have to take Java. So we review all of that with all the clients, and as a pet owner, they review that with me.
That's fabulous. Um, so I'll nitpick a few things that we do. So on that agreement, we actually have a dollar amount written in, like the pet parent authorizes up to $2,500 worth of emergency veterinary care. And then we put in another clause that says, by signing this, the pet parent agrees to anesthesia for their pet, because that seems to be a hang up with a lot of vets to put a dog under. So yes, making sure that you have that signed. And again, your software, shoots that over to people when they're setting up their profile, making sure that they have it signed. We actually also make people renew that every year because I always tweak some of the language in there. So that's super important. And then we make up business card sized cards that have our holiday hours. So when pet parents are coming in to drop off, we hand them that card as the reminder. These are our special holiday pickup and drop off times. Please only show up during these times. Or make sure you got 20 bucks cash on you to pay my staff. Um, but yeah, doing that. And then on your slide here, packing extra meals. That's also where it's super important in the software when they're filling out the profile that you ask, what's the primary food that your pet eats? So then that way, if they do run out of food or get delayed by airlines, as Billy and I will attest to in our recent travels, and if you have house food or you have food available for sale, that you at least find something that has the right protein that they're used to. So that's super important. Or, sometimes things happen and people bring you their mason jar of dog food. You don't know that, and you set their bag down, and the jar shatters inside the bag, and you're like, "Crap! Now I have no food." So things are going to happen. And this is also, we talked about pet parents and emergency stuff, but also revisit with your staff emergency protocols. Run
Mhm.
through all the scenarios, such as the mason jar breaking, and now I've got a bag full of dog food with glass that I'm certainly not feeding anybody. What do we do if they run out of food? Do you have, what do we do for diarrhea? What's your diarrhea protocol? I mean, it's the holidays. Somebody's going to have diarrhea. So also just making sure that you're going through with your staff what are all of those protocols, including how are you communicating with the pet parents? Are you texting them? Are you phone calling them? Are you emailing them? What emergencies with the pet or your facility or weather are going to kick off what protocol for you to
Mhm.
communicate with the pet parents? That is a huge piece that if you've been in the industry long enough, something's going to happen notoriously, right? Like a snowstorm pops up or a hailstorm or, the water main breaks. So people now
Yep.
can't get to the front door of your facility, right? Like something,
Right.
there's always something that Murphy's Law, right?
Yep.
But I just find that the more that you are prepared about it, the more that you talk about it, the more that you communicate about it, the less likely it is to happen. And if it does happen, everybody can feel much more relaxed and confident because they know that you have a plan. We communicate twice as much the week leading up to a holiday, reminding people of drop off times, reminding people of how do they need to pack their food. Do we require Ziploc baggies of each meal, or can they bring the whole 50-pound bag? Medications, reminders about that, and that whatever your medication protocol is, if you want each med to be already in its pill pocket, if you need everything separate, if it has to be in the original containers, whatever that is, the more that you communicate with the pet parent leading up to drop off, and then drop off, make sure that you've got all the proper stuff. And then how are you communicating with them when the pet is there? Um, Facebook? Are you doing personal updates? Are you sending pictures directly to the pet parent through the software? How are you doing those updated communications, especially if it's a long stay? I always tell people if your pet's with me for 24 hours, we'll post a few pictures, but hopefully you're not buying the paparazzi package where you want 5 text message pictures because your dog's only there for 24 hours. But you know, the key is just knowing kind of how you should best communicate with your pet parents and how your dog's doing. They want to know. And then report cards. Carmen, do you save all your report cards from
I
from when Java's at the
I do save all the report
see?
cards to see how he's doing. Are we having a good week, a bad week? Is there something I need to catch? Yeah, absolutely. I track all of that. But that happens because I'm in the industry, and I sometimes wonder, Eve, if if a person's not in the industry like I happen to be, do they still do the same things I think to do? And so when I
Mm.
do interviews, nationally, when I talk to um, newspapers or TV programs, whatever, I walk through this process about the questions the pet owner should be asking. And I wonder, does that follow through with you? Do you see that these pet parents are keeping the report cards, that they know to ask the right questions? Or are you having to sort of lead them into that conversation?
Yeah, I would say almost all of them keep the report cards. And at my facility, we hand write all the report cards and we go back and forth on this. So if you are able to do it all in the program, bless you. But yeah, so we hand write,
Right.
80 to 100 report cards. Um, and our clients love them. Uh, And sometimes, if somebody picks up a day early, I'll be like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I don't have your report card ready." And they'll be like, "Oh, I'll wait."
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
do wait.
It's so important. Um, but yeah, I think first time pet owners don't know what to ask, so you
Yep.
do need to lead them down that path.
Hmm.
And then after those, you're gonna get 50-50. You're gonna get the guy that's like, yeah, he's good with whatever, and then
Hmm.
you're going to get the other pet parent that goes, now I like the pillow to be fluffed up and turned a quarter this way and set in the backdrop, so you're going to get both of those pet parents. And again, it also just attributes to what is it that you allow to come into your facility? Can they bring a blanket from home or no blankets? You're providing bedding. Can they
Right.
bring bones, toys, and treats, or only certain approved things? So a lot of that is going to come into play too. And again, that's where that comes into communicating ahead of time. Hey, Fluffy's coming in for boarding. This is how we want you to package their food. These are the items that you can bring from home. And we have a full lobby of items that you can grab a little something special when Fluffy comes to stay with us, right? So also preemptively telling them, hey, we got stuff for Fluffy. But yeah, so it is true. I think your first time pet owners don't know what to ask, and you have to educate them. You have to walk them down the
Hmm.
path, and or if someone is new to your facility, walking them through this is how we do
Yes.
things, this is how it flows, and making them feel comfortable that they don't need to call 5 times in one day to ask how Fluffy is
Right.
doing. Fluffy is doing just fine. And then the tracking, the big things we all
Right.
want to know, right? Are they eating?
Yep.
How's their pee and poop? And how's the
Yep.
personality? That's what
Yes.
every pet parent wants to know. I
And
always say, people that work in the newborn section and people that work in nursing homes and those of us in the animal care facility, we track the poop. How is the poop? And so it's just super important that again, from a staffing perspective, how are you communicating this internally? What is your protocols? What are pet parents signing off on? Are they signing off that you can add pumpkin? Are they signing off on that you could use a probiotic? Things along those lines. So just
Yep.
making sure that you're tracking, the intake, what's going into the animal, what's coming out of the animal, and then their overall personality, and then following whatever your protocols are for how to communicate.
Yeah. And
and
Joe, you have a really good point that yes, we also track what they're drinking. I think almost
Oh,
every
yes.
report card that is on there, what we're tracking.
And on the topic of report cards, if you don't want to handwrite 100 a day,
Do
just
not
a
write.
reminder, MoeGo users, you do have a report card built into every ticket. It allows you to add up to 5 pictures a day, a video of the day. And if handwriting hurts your wrist, you can type in all your notes for your pet parents and be able to send them out. Those will also live permanently on their customer profile, so they can go and take a look at their records whenever they'd like to.
Hmm.
Oh, this is excellent content. We're going to move on to the Q&A portion. So if anybody has any questions
Well,
that you want to ask Cameron or Carmen or Eve,
yeah.
now's the perfect time to do so.
Well, thank you, Katie. I'm glad that my poop videos have helped you guys
Yeah.
succinctly speak to your pet parents. I'm not gonna lie, talking about poop's a game changer. Especially when the pet parent is called for the fifth time and you're like, nope, poop's still solid, man. We're happy. Life is good. But those are, I think, super important things to track. And Billy, like you talked about too, in the system, we utilize that a lot when you're communicating from one shift to the next shift.
Mm. Yep.
And my
Did she get
outro,
frozen?
she did. My outro
In
is
there.
on my phone, which is right next to my monitor. I can't wait to see what my Instagram ads look like with all this poop tonight.
Now that we're talking.
Um,
Poop.
I'm
Poop
actually
talk.
going to lead off the Q&A. I'd be curious to know, you both mentioned it. Carmen, you talked about it a little bit more pronounced, but we talked about emergency contacts.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I just think about my own holiday plans. Like my wife and I, we travel from where we live to go see our parents. Um, what do you train on, or what do you do when you can't get a hold of an emergency contact in an emergency?
Well, if in the facility I work at, if they can't get a hold of me, and my emergency contact is not available, then my second, and this is because I'm in a smaller town and I have a much different kind of relationship with the boarding facility I board at. The boarding facility owners are the second emergency contact, and they can
Mm.
come in and know what to do. But in other facilities, I think they have to put it in their contract. If we cannot reach your
Mhm.
emergency contact, we will take the following steps. And I think that's when, as Eve pointed out, we're going to have you sign off how much dollars we're going to spend. You're going to sign that we can do these things at the vet, and we're off to the vet to get it taken care of. I think the bigger challenges in smaller communities like here in Las Cruces, where I currently live, we do not have vets that stay open overnight, and we just several months ago got our first emergency vet that we've never had. So we've had to drive to El Paso, and that was an hour to an hour and a half drive, and then you had a 4 hour wait. So that was really stressful, having a boarding facility in the area without an emergency vet. So that's why everything came down into writing in the document down to who is your vet, and then asking the vet, can we call you if Java has a problem? Would you meet us at the vet to take care of Java at that point? So Eve, how do you handle that when your emergency contact is not available?
Yeah, same thing. So if their emergency contact's not available, we call their vet. Half the vets in our town will only treat you if you are a client because they just don't have enough staff.
Yeah.
And we do not have an emergency vet in town as well. So we are either driving 2.5 hours to the University, Wisconsin-Madison, or I'm driving 2.5 hours to Minneapolis to the animal emergency vet clinic. So those are our options, which is why in our contract we list a whole bunch of like holistic stuff that we will try. Again, diarrhea, things like that. And then in our new client welcome packet, we have in there, if your dog has an ear injury, we're gonna wrap it and then wait for you to with what.
He's freezing again.
I know.
Uh, Joe in the chat wants to know, when doing staff meetings leading
The-
up to holidays, how often do you run through first aid protocols and practice different scenarios?
Mm,
that's a really good question. Eve,
one.
you want to go with that?
Yeah. So I will tell you that every staff meeting that we have, and we do one a quarter, we always assign 20 to 30 minutes to how do we wrap an ear? How do we wrap up a broken toenail? And things like that. But prior to the holidays, the big one that we go over is bloat. So when we have our December staff meeting, we'll be discussing bloat, any sort of a respiratory distress, and we're really going to harp on making sure that we put proper notes in about diarrhea. So those are the three things that we're going to focus on prior to the holidays.
I don't have anything to add. Our facility, all of our people have been CPR first aid trained. But as far as I do not know if management is going um, over that stuff with them right before the holidays, so I cannot speak to that. But that's a great idea. Thank you, Joe, for answering the question. I think I'll go to my facility and say, "Hey, are you doing that?"
Yeah, one of the best things you can do is have those fake Melissa and Doug dogs and
Yes.
get yourself some, either gauze or some ace bandage and literally make them practice doing some of those things. Because if they don't practice it, then they're gonna fumble with it,
Yeah.
and that's really it. Dog Handler Academy, we have a first aid course to it. As Carmen says, having some staffers that are CPR and first aid certified is super important. But if they don't physically practice that, then it becomes a lot more challenging in the moment because it's not like a dog's gonna sit still while you're trying to wrap his ear.
Yeah. Exactly.
Being a good service worker in this industry is making everybody a better dog parent here. I'm loving the synergy. All right. Well, with
All the things you get to learn, Billy, all the things you get to learn, right?
I'm loving it. It's the most
Yeah,
rewarding part of this job.
there you go. So there was actually two additional things. I know we didn't kind of go too deeply into them, but you know, we talked about treating your staff well and really think about the type of staff that work for you. And one of the things that I do is the extra revenue that we make for Thanksgiving. That helps to give my staff their bonuses before Christmas. So then they have that extra push to go buy Christmas gifts. And I can't tell you how many of them truly appreciate it because it takes that stress off of them. Let's face it, most people don't save. I remember back in the day, my mom had a Christmas account at the bank where she would put, $5 away every week, and that was her Christmas account. I don't even know if they have those anymore. But teaching our staff some fiscal responsibility, remind them they don't need to go into debt to provide gifts to other people is huge. One year we actually all made Christmas gifts. So we did some painted projects that we gave that we encouraged our staff to give to their significant others or their parents as gifts. So any financial assistance that you're able to give to your staff prior to Christmas, I'm I will tell you they will 100% appreciate that.
Goes a very long way.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's going to wrap our Q&A sec portion of this evening. If you do have any follow-up questions, there will be a format for you to be able to get them answered in a timely fashion. I do hope that this was a helpful webinar for everybody that came in today, and I hope you guys all have a very successful holiday season. You all got this. I'm going to make sure you all have my personal email because I would love to hear from everybody here how things go for you once New Year's rolls around. You can pick your heads up. If you'd like to learn more about IBPSA, the Dog Handler Academy, or see MoeGo in action, you can see the barcodes that we provided here. You can scan them on your smartphone and they'll take you to the proper links. We will also provide these links in all of our follow-up correspondence for this webinar. Thank you all again for joining us this evening. Come back in a couple of weeks. We're going to have Caleb from Good Boy Marketing talking about how to drive more appointments to your business. Happy holidays, and we'll see you all next time.
MoeGo